Hi, I'm Magaibo and today I'm going to be looking at how to smart bomb shuttles mid-warp. I have made a video of this in the past, but since I made that I've learned so much more about the subject, it makes sense to make a fresh video about it and share this additional knowledge with you. So let's talk about the theory and the principles of smart bombing mid-warp first. Most shuttles, with the exception of two, all travel at the same speed. And I'm talking about warp speed here. That's the crucial difference between your maximum velocity, your subwarp speed, and the speed at which you travel when you're warping from one point to another. Most of the common shuttles that you see all travel at 5 AU a second. The things that will have an impact on that are implants, specific set of implants which increase your warp speed. So if you're armed with the knowledge that shuttles travel at the same speed, and also that the server for EVE Online updates at every second, then you can pinpoint where a shuttle is likely to be if it's warping from one point to another point at a given time. And if you know where a shuttle is going to be, you can smart bomb it. So for this example, I'm going to use Dieter Fofo station and the perimeter gate as a straight line along which I'm going to measure points at where we would expect to see a shuttle every second, and then work out the best place to place a smart bomber. Now, it's not enough to know where a shuttle is. You need to know where it is before you're going to activate your smart bombs as well. Because if you see it on your overview, it's already gone. So what you need to do is place a scout or a spy a couple of seconds, a couple of ticks prior to where your smart bomber is, and you want to activate your smart bombs when it shows up on your scout's overview. The theory is that if you activate your bombs when it shows up on your scout's overview, they will activate at the point at which the shuttle is going to get destroyed by them. Does that make sense? Let's try it out and see. So we're gonna try and catch shuttles that are leaving full 4 and going to perimeter. Now, the default hotkey for setting a bookmark on EVE Online is Control and B. I've changed that so it's just B, which means that I can activate it a lot quicker. Now, the other thing that you want to do is ensure that your bookmarks are in a folder that makes sense. So I've got a folder for smart bombs. I'm going to create a subfolder that's called 442 perimeter. And if I just set a location here and save it in that folder, future locations that I save, and I'll need to do them really quickly, will also go into that folder. So let's warp to the perimeter gate and create bookmarks on the way. Now remember that if you create 2 bookmarks in less than a second, they're going to stay in the same place. They're going to be identical, provided that that's within the same tick. I'll show you what I mean. So I created 2 bookmarks, but because they were in the same tick, it's at the same spot. So let's just warp to the Stargate now and create bookmarks on the way and see what happens. So what I've created here is a string of bookmarks that goes, and you can see some of them there, from the Jita station all the way to the perimeter gate. I can warp to any one of those, and if I press F9 for the solar system map, you can see the bookmarks I've just created. There's the perimeter gate, and there's the Jita station. But there's a variance when you warp. You don't always warp to exactly the same spot. Sometimes if you warp to a station, for example, you could land a couple of kilometers away from the docking point. You could land inside the docking point, but there seems to be a circle of, I would say, around 5-6 kilometers of variance between the points that you warp to. So if I'm to warp now, the bookmarks might be in slightly different places. So what I want to do is create a bunch of these bookmarks and then find out the average point, the point in which a smart bombing ship would capture all of those bookmarks within the circumference of its smart bomb range. It'll make a lot more sense once we actually do it. I'm going to warp to the perimeter gate again at 0 and create bookmarks on the way. Now the other thing is that when you undock from 44 station in Jita or any station, it isn't the same point that you're undocking from. Jita 44 is a great example of this. It's actually got 2 or 3 different points from which you can emerge, and it's a good 90-100 kilometers difference between the two areas. So when you're setting the bookmarks, if you want to create an average that represents where shuttles warp when they go from Jita to perimeter, you should keep docking and undocking to make sure you get that wide variety. So we're going to go back for the 3rd time and create more locations. But I'll fast forward it. Sometimes when you're inputting the bookmarks, you might get a warning telling you, whoa, slow down, you're doing too much of that. It's just the downside of Eve, and if you keep at it, you'll get enough bookmarks. Sorry, I keep saying bookmarks. Within Eve, it's a location, it's a bookmark. I'm going to show you something, which is that shuttles, and the more interesting shuttles, quite often use an instant undock point. In fact, they're the ones that we're going to be hunting today. So if I warp out to an instant undock point, I'm going to show you something. So I've warped out to 389 kilometers away from the station. That's a good point to have as an instant undock. It takes you away from the majority of nefarious pilots on the undock, which is handy if you've got a large value cargo. So from here, I'm going to warp to the perimeter gate, and I'll set bookmarks on the way. I'm just going to show you that if I warp up to some of the bookmarks that I've created there, you can see that they are, broadly speaking, in a circle, which was what we were talking about earlier in the variance of bookmarks, locations when they're created. We would expect to see this, that they are at most about 5 kilometers, 4 kilometers apart, in this case 4.3. So it didn't matter that the origin point was 300 or 400 kilometers difference. By the time that you get to the end of a 40 AU trip, it becomes the same point. Now, for the sake of illustrating this, I'm going to create a lot more bookmarks than I normally would, so we can get a better picture of what the variance in the warp distance is. So I now have a good collection of locations here, and we're going to get rid of a lot of them now. If I go to the ones that are nearest 44 station, these ones are really far apart. So I've got one here that's 2 kilometers away, another one's 352 kilometers, one's 431, one's 429. So you can see that trying to find a central point to this is useless because you're too near the point of origin and the locations have not started to converge because your single point is too far away, your destination. These locations, as arduous as it is, need to be deleted one at a time. So what we want to be is as close as possible to the perimeter gate, because if we know that the bookmarks converge, then the closer to the destination, the closer together they're going to be, the more concentrated they are. And the more concentrated they are, the easier it's going to be to get a smart bomb to cover all of those potential points. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Now we want to be as close to the gate as we can, but not on the same grid as the gate. There are some people who smart bomb literally a couple of kilometers away from the gate. But the problem with that is people can see what you're doing, and in somewhere like Jita that attracts loot thieves, people who want to sit right next to you. So when you activate your smart bombs, they get a kill right on you. You really want to avoid that tension as much as you can. So I've managed to get here 0.2 AU away from the perimeter gate. Let's take a look at the bookmarks here, the locations here. Now, with the exception of one, all of the others have got a cluster close together. So this little cluster here, I'm at the one that's closest to the gate, and the one that's furthest away is just 3.7 kilometers away. So if I aim for what looks like it might be a midpoint, we'll say this bookmark here, everything is within that 5 kilometer bubble. And the relevance of that is that your smart bomb, it will cause damage to anything in this area. So this to me looks like a really good point to place your smart bomb. So we will right click on this spot and we will call it 442 perimeter gate, and this is for shuttles, not leopards. They go at a different speed, so their points will be different. We'll call it shuttle, and we'll call this one smart bomb. Now what we want to do is set up from there our spy spot. Now, ideally, our spy spot would be 2 seconds, 2 clicks earlier. So what we need to do, and this is quite quick and quite easy, is to take the location that we're at and look for the locations 2 seconds or 2 clicks earlier. So for where I am, I go back 1, 2 locations, back towards Jita, so an earlier point, and I'm just going to right click on one of those locations and we'll call it 44 to perimeter gate spy. Now I should say at this point that in order to smart bomb the way that I'm showing you here, you need 3 Omega accounts. This will not work with alpha accounts for a number of reasons. You need to have your accounts on the same screen at the same time, and you can't do that with alpha accounts. And you also need to be able to aggress in high security space, which is again something that alpha accounts can't do. So now that I have my smart bomb location and spy location set up and ready to go, it's time to get the ships prepared. So I use 3 pilots. 1 to, as you would expect, activate smart bombs. 1 who is the scout, who will be showing on their overview nothing but shuttles, so when I see the shuttle that I'm after, I can activate the smart bombs, knowing that within the next tick, the shuttle is going to be entering the 5 kilometer area of the smart bombs which I'm activating. How do you know which shuttles that you want to blow up? Well, my smart bomber is the mauler. My spy or scout is in a stero which will be cloaked. My 3rd pilot is also cloaked, and he will be sitting near the Jita station and watching the shuttles that are coming out and looking for potential targets. Now there's one more step that we need, and for this to make sense, you need to know a little bit about a technical side to Eve, which is that not all ships update the overview at the same time. There appears to be a kind of queuing system in Eve as to which clients are updated in what order. Some of them get it first, and some of them are at the end of the queue. Now, ultimately, I don't think it makes a difference in that when the client is talking to the server, it's telling it the system time that something happened. So hopefully you'd like to think that even if you're at the back of the queue, the system will recognize at what point you did something in relative to relative to everything else. But when you are overlapping clients and you're reacting on one client based on when something happened to another client, they really should be in sync. Or if they're not in sync, then it needs to be a choice that you've made. For example, I might want to have my scout a little bit ahead in the queue of my smart bomber. So that'll give me a wee second to react to seeing the shuttle and then activating the smart bombs. And there is a way that you can gauge whereabouts you are in the queue and then force a session change to change your place in that queue so you can get where you want to be. And to do that, you can do it with 2 clients, but I choose to do it with 3 because you're controlling the situation a bit more, and I'll show you what I mean. So I've got both of my ships here that I want to sync up at the same station. So I'll just undock them both, and I'll just stop them both and make sure that their overviews can show all ships. And I'm going to take my 3rd ship, which is the cloaked spy, station spy, and I'm going to cloak him. Now, because he's cloaked, he doesn't show up on the overview of my other 2 ships, but he will do when I uncloak him. And when I uncloak him, I'll be able to see which of the 2 clients updates first with the uncloaked ship. So let's do that. Well, unfortunately, it's my bomber that updated first, which isn't any good. The reason being, if my scout updates late, then no matter when I hit the smart bombs on my bomber, it's too late. The shuttle could already have gone. So you want to get them, if not in sync, then to have your scout a little bit ahead. So the way to change your place in the queue is to dock and undock. A more extreme way would be to leave your ship and then get back in it. You're forcing a session change. So if I uncloak now, we can see that time my spy here updated first, and that's what we want. So before I move everyone into position, there's something else that I want to do, which is to get everybody in the same fleet. I need to set up both my station spy and my mid-space spy to only have shuttles on their overview. And another advantage is for your spy, your mid-space spy, to add your bomber on the watch list, because your spy is also going to be looting the wrecks. So now that everything's set up, it's time to get everyone in place. So I'm warping my station spy to a spot above Jita 44. They're cloaked. I'm warping my spy to the spot that we just created, which is 44 to PG spy, but I'm going to do it within 30 or 50 kilometers because I don't want him uncloaked. I don't want to make it too obvious what I'm doing. And finally, I'm going to get my Gaibo into place, which is the 44 to perimeter gate shuttle smart bomb. Now, you need to activate your 4 smart bombs at the same time, which is very difficult to do. I used to have a piece of wood that covered up the first 4 function keys until I found out about commands that are used in EVE Online to activate the smart bombs all at once, or indeed any of your function slots. Now I have checked with CCP and they have confirmed that provided that this is not being used as part of a macro, you are allowed to use this method to activate the smart bombs. So now that I'm on the smart bomb, I'm just going to cloak up because, like I said, I don't want to advertise too much what I'm doing because a loot thief could just circle me and then swoop in and get the loot, and they can scan me down quite easily if I'm not cloaked. So these are the commands. This is not a script. You can just copy all 4 of these and put them in your chat. And then if you're to press enter, that would activate all 4 at once. This is not an exploit. And I've got communications from CCP which say that this is absolutely allowed. If I was using a script or a third-party software or something to trigger this using these commands, that wouldn't be allowed, but this is permitted. Now I have been decloaked by something going by, so I've got to wait and then recloak. Remember, you can only activate the smart bombs if you're not cloaked. But how am I going to decide who to bomb? This is my spy, and I'm looking down on the G244 station, and I only have Shuttles on my overview. And we mentioned earlier an instant undock bookmark. So what we're looking for is Shuttles who come out and don't just warp straight to a gate. They're maybe being very, very cautious by warping out to one of these bookmarks, which would lead us to believe that ones who are being extra cautious might have a more high value cargo. So at this point, we're just sitting and waiting. You can see the Shuttles on the overview, and if you run your cursor over it, it'll have a circle on them so you can keep an eye on whereabouts they are. But we're looking for ones who don't linger on the undock too long. Maybe after a few seconds warp out to here, here, or even further. So once we identify a shuttle, we're going to switch into the bomber's client, uncloak, and then the moment that we see the shuttle appear on the spy, press enter to activate the bombs and hopefully catch our target. Mid-warp. Perimeter gate we can see is in the bottom left corner there. Anyone who's going in that direction is likely going to be passing our line. So we have safe signal, prevalence and pre-tent. All three of them went in the same line there. So if we look out over on the client here, we can see prevalence, safe signal and pre-tent all passed through there. Now the calibration that we did earlier between the two different clients is something that you have to repeat anytime you have a session change. So if anyone docks, if anyone loses a ship, then it goes out of sync. But also it tends to go out of sync over time anyway, which kind of makes sense because if you're in a queue and there's other people leaving and joining the queue, they could be leaving or joining between you. Your places relative to each other could change. You could get closer together or further apart. Now one thing that you should also be checking is your safety setting. Your scout, fully cloaked, no reason to think that they're going to need to go suspect or criminal, so you can leave them green. Your mid-space scout is going to be looting a wreck, hopefully, so you want them to be set to partially disabled or yellow. But your smart bomber really needs to be red, otherwise he will not be able to activate the bombs. I've compared ganking to fishing a number of times, in that once you're set up, it's just a matter of waiting until your catch comes along. It can be quite relaxing. Council diplomatic shuttles go the same speed as normal shuttles, the faction shuttles, but they've got a bit more of a tank. Now I mentioned before about the watch list here, adding MacGybo to the watch list. Now a watch list is something that you can activate if you are in a fleet, and you can add members of the fleet to the watch list. You can just drag and drop their names, and then when you need, or if you need to walk to them or target them for remote repairs or anything like that, you just right click on their name and you've got a quick menu to, well in my case it would be to warp to that member of the fleet. This chap's coming out in a leopard. I wouldn't be able to smart bomb a leopard here. Leopards travel faster. Their warp speed is faster than normal shuttles. So the points at which they'll be leaving their bookmarks, or we'll be able to leave bookmarks every tick, every second, is going to be further apart. They're going to be in different places than shuttles which travel at 5 AU. If it seems like it's not working, if you hit enter as soon as you see one of these pilots, then count to 1 before you press enter. Let's try it with this bounty bomb. Okay. No reason to believe he's got anything on him, but I just want to demonstrate. One. There we go. So he's got an empty shuttle. So my other pilot, you can see, warps straight to Mac. The intention being to get to this wreck, which is empty, but to get to it before anyone else does. Now there's a couple of things that you need to do when you're cleaning up here. One is you need to get rid of the wrecks, because if you come back here to Smartbomb again, the wrecks being there could be a problem for you. You don't want to trigger Concord if you activate the smart bombs, but then you don't hit anything. So there's the shuttle kill. Smart bomb 534 damage. That's all it took, purely for demonstration purposes. So what you have to bear in mind is that if you know where the smart bombs are and the best places to put the smart bombs are, then so do the loot thieves and the anti-gankers. So you have to be inventive. I mean, what I've shown you here is one spot between perimeter and the 4-4 station, or the other way around. But you could take this principle and apply it anywhere. You could go to low security space and not have to worry about Concord. You don't have to use a Mauler. There's a very famous Proteus smart bombing setup which can be used and has far more smart bombs on it. You could buy yourself a Leopard and ping that between a couple of gates on a trade route, and then just sit and wait for a Leopard to drop into your web. Alternatively, what you could do is sit on the undock with something with a very high sig radius that can lock onto things quickly, and try and scan the shuttles as they undock. Slash has got a lot of mid slots, so you could maybe fill that up with sensor boosters and some rigs, and then try and scan the ships before they jump out. The crazy thing about using instant undock points on this JITA station is that it probably isn't that necessary. The old JITA station used to face out this direction here, and it was slightly different in that it wasn't aligned to the main gates. And by the main gates I mean Akuchi, Marasi, New, Kaldari, Nyabanan and Perimeter. This one is. So you could probably undock and then warp to the Perimeter gate very, very easily. You don't really need an instant undock points, definitely not with a shuttle. If you were going to do this from the Perimeter gate to 4-4, then it might be worth having your eyes above the Perimeter gate. And what I've done in the past is keep an eye out for pilots who've left JITA to go to Perimeter and then come back a couple of minutes later. They could be people who have got buy orders set up in Perimeter, picking up stuff and then bringing it back to JITA to sell. And you can use the in-game notepad for that, just to keep a note of pilot names. The other thing is pilots who do warp off really, really quickly, like this chap, Happy Gagarin. Anyone who warps off too quickly might only have a couple of inertial stabilizers in their cargo. You can also put suspect or criminal shuttles as they go by. Probably best to make sure that, I mean, that was just bad luck that there was a Venture going by at the same time, so I've popped the Venture and the shuttle. That was just, like I say, bad luck. Well, Good luck if you're looking for more kills. Let's just take a look at the unintentional venture kill. It would have been nice if it was full of skill injectors, but it's not. It's just an Eve Uni miner. An accidental kill's a kill. One thing I like to keep an eye out is for pilots with a name like Jeter or Accountant, or in this case, Cash Boy. Something which overtly says, hey, I've got something to do with trading or high value items. Fortunately, these characters are more likely to drop something of value. You have to take it with a pinch of salt if someone's got a ship called LOLs full of skill injectors. So when you blow somebody up in high security space, a number of things are going to happen. You're going to get concorded, which means you lose your ship. That's a done deal. You can't avoid it. That's actually an exploit. The next thing is you're going to have a criminal pod floating in space, which anyone will be free to shoot without repercussions. You will have a criminal timer for 15 minutes, which means if you undock in a ship in that 15 minutes, you'll get a warning. And if you persist, then you will lose that ship. That will be concorded. You'll lose security status, usually 0.2 or thereabouts security status. And if you go below -2, you can't go in high security space if it's a 1.0 system. This is a 0.9 system, so you'd need to go to -2.5 before you weren't allowed to operate freely. You would also give away kill right to the person that you killed, which they can activate themselves, which makes you go suspect for 15 minutes, or they can make it available for other people so they can activate it. They can make it available to people for a fee, to everybody, or to a select group. So we do have a criminal pilot coming towards us. Let's see if we can blow them up without blowing up a venture. So we have managed it, and it was empty. But it shows our setup is solid. You could probably try this with corvettes as well. That might be interesting. Whether or not you could bomb and kill an in-flight corvette with this setup, I'm not sure, but you'd obviously have to set up different bookmarks. The corvettes only go at 3 AU a second, rather than the 5 that the shuttles. And please, if you're one of the pilots that have been scootering about in a shuttle here, and you did have large skill injectors or plex on board, and I didn't see you or pop you or pick up on it, message me and let me know. Leave a comment with your in-game name and the time that you're normally playing and when you're next planning to do such a run. And subscribe. So the fit that I'm using for this mauler is just a whole bunch of reactor control units and medium ancillary current router rigs. All of that is required to fit 4 smart bombs, and I put in the cloak. You don't need the cloak, but I put it in because it assists somewhat in avoiding unwanted attention. If you're going to be smart bombing in low sec, then I would say that the cloak is crucial. You can tweak that depending on your skills. You might get away with having less Tech 2 reactor control units. That's really the basic one. I set up to smart bomb in Jita in June when we had the update that introduced the Tech 2 dreadnoughts. And my bombing point was for leopards coming from perimeter to 4-4 in a straight line. and I managed to catch a leopard that had, I think it was 8 of the new skill books for the Tech 2 Dreadnoughts, which worked out, I think it was about 20 billion ISK, which would certainly be the biggest kill that I've had for quite a while. And that was just using this technique. I think we'll try one last kill. Let's try and get Selena Kelly, who's another pilot that we've seen jumping in and out. So we did get them. And unfortunately, Selena Kelly of the Selena Corporation is empty. So I think I've shown you the principles in this video, even if I haven't made a strong argument for the financial viability of the practice. So give it a try, keep at it. There has been some phenomenal kills over the last couple of weeks from people smart bombing shuttles leaving 4-4. We're talking dozens of skill injectors and skill extractors and significant amounts of ISK. And if you try this for a couple of days, you're going to get results. So I'm Magaibo. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry, Selena Kelly. I'll see you again next time. Bye now.